allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, everyone. I will call the meeting to order. Are there any additions or corrections to the agenda, Jeff?
Yes, we have item 5D to add to natural resource management, which
Okay.
I think you have a copy of.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that it?
Yes, that's what I'm aware of.
Okay. All right, I need a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with the amendment.
Okay, Ted moves. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Almost second. Further discussion? I'd just like to mention before we vote that Steve is also present via remotely. So all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. It's time for public input. Anybody here that wishes to speak about the proposed campground, we will take public input at that time. Does anyone have public comment for anything else?
Talk about public input, number 2, I have a.
Oh, yes, but if you're here to speak on the campground, we're gonna have public input on that at a different time.
That's something totally different.
Okay, so come up to the podium and you can sign your name and address, please, and then,
It'll be short and sweet.
okay.
I haven't been getting mail
Could you state your name, please?
Art,
Could you state your name and your
Mark
address?
Keller,
Okay,
and I haven't been getting my mail regularly, so I called the post office. They will not deliver mail with more than 1 inch of snow on the road. I call the county, they will not plow with less than 3 inches of snow on the road. So we're at I can't get mail with more than 1 inch, but they will not plow with less than 3.
wow.
That's where I'm at. I've called the county, and I'm gonna try to say this gently, was treated sarcastically and rudely by whoever I talked to on the phone. I'm assuming, thinking, I don't know anything about trucks plowing. Well, I'll tell you, I plow, I got a Class A license, and certain things, they're plowing the west end of our road, they get within a mile of our house, and then they turn around and they go out. We're down in the far southern east corner of Hubbard County. I mean, I can throw a rock to Wadena, I can throw a rock to Cass. And it's like, we've been plowed once this year, and that was after I called the post office and they told me why they can't deliver mail, and once, no. The other end's been plowed 5 times.
Does your road to next to your property go, is that a county road up to your, yeah?
It's Hubbard County 109. We're just east of 64, or west of 64, I take that. 109 and 110. 110 is like the Trip Lake Road, I think they call it too. So, something's gotta change.
Okay,
Are you on Monaga, Mayor?
Pardon?
Are you on Monaga Post Office?
I can't, what?
Are you out of the Monaga Post Office?
Yes.
Okay, because Nevis, they deliver to me.
Well, we're closer to Pine River, Bacchus, Hackensack, Akeley, and Nevis than we are Monaga, but we got Monaga postal address.
Wow. Won't deliver with just 1 inch of snow.
That's not gonna change that I know of, but. Yeah, I mean, when they won't deliver with more than 1 and the county won't plow with less than 3, that something's gotta happen. And I doubt we're gonna get the US Postal Service to change their, cause if they can plow within a mile of west of me, they can keep going.
So how do they square up if little more than an inch of snow falls and a week later they still don't deliver after it's been packed down?
Right now, yeah, there's probably 2 inches of packed ice and snow on the road. It's slippery, it's dangerous.
So there's not an inch of snow on the road anymore?
There's not what?
There's not an inch of snow on the road anymore once it's compacted down?
Like I said, we've been plowed once, and that was last Thursday. I mean, we got like 2, and then we got 2.5, and then we got another 2. Well, nothing more than 3, but you start adding them up, and so.
well, you two Jeffs, the administrator and Jeff,
Yeah. Look into it?
you guys wanna look
Now, I
into it?
don't know if this year, if it's contracted out, 1 year Hubbard County did it, 1 year it was last year, I think it was contracted out to an outfit out of Nevis. I don't know who's got it this year, I tried to find out, but nothing online to tell me.
So, sir, can you put down your name, your address and phone number, and Jeff, our administrator, and then the gentleman right behind you, Jeff, works with the highway department, so they can work with you on a solution?
Yeah, we'll figure it out. Right now, the county highway department's longstanding snow plowing policy was the 3 inches or more. And, as far as the post office goes, that's
But
That's
you're
the first-
plowing the other end when they had 3/4 of an inch.
yeah, I can't answer that. I'd have to talk to the maintenance superintendent to find out
Yeah.
more of the circumstances and details. But, if you can, put your name, address,
Yeah,
and
I
a
will.
phone number, so I can certainly follow up with you and find out who you talked to, because we shouldn't be talking to, we don't talk to people sarcastically, or at least not intentionally, so. I'd like to.
So
find
is
out.
the county doing it this year, or is it contracted out again?
Well, some of it's contracted out, but I don't know exactly where you're at.
I'm at the
On-
very south
Right,
road
and,
of Hubbard County.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And our maintenance superintendent would have the details. I don't
Yeah.
have that with me
Okay.
right now, so.
Yeah,
So,
but, so somebody is coming onto 109 from the west, and they're plowing east, but they stop, turn around, and go back.
I believe.
I don't know if you're familiar where First Growing Lake is? That's as far as they go.
He's in Bedore Township, and I believe part of it is county and part of it is township, and I think that's where the disconnect is.
Okay,
So I think that's what part of it is, sorry.
okay, so,
Yeah. Well,
Thank
like I
you,
said,
Maria. So
county
Jeff
did it
and-
one year,
Jeff
that
can
it
work
was
on that.
private
And
contracted
especially
out
when you
when.
said that, I believe that, I think
Figure it
I
out.
think the disconnect is on the township side of it, but we can look into it, so.
so,
Yeah,
sir,
bottom line
Jeff
is,
will work with you.
The post office, I'm stuck between the county and the postal service, and mail is kind of important.
Okay,
I didn't get my paper last Wednesday.
thank you for letting
All right,
us know.
thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? All right. Motion to accept the consent agenda? Does anybody want anything pulled? Okay,
I'll move.
Dave moves. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, is any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, public employee recognition. Facility maintenance, James Taylor, Maintenance Technician 1, Facilities began the full-time position on January 2nd, 2024. Highway, Hayden Roloffs, Engineer Technician 2, began full-time position on January 8th of 2024. I'm sorry, I missed you. Are you James?
Yes,
Oh, well, welcome. Natural Resource Management, Aaron Funk. Natural Resources Manager is recognized for 25 years of service on January 18th, 2024. Property Records, Hope Brown. Property Records Specialist 2 began a full-time position on January 15th, 2024. Welcome. Sheriff Jaden Isaacson, Dispatcher Jailer, began the part-time position on January 3rd, 2024. And Solid Waste Trenton Stark, non-certified attendant, is recognized for service from July 26th, 2022 to January 5th, 2024. Welcome and thank you. Okay, Natural Resources.
Good morning.
Marty.
I have quite a bit on the agenda today. First thing, I'll start with the auction we had on last Monday, January 8th. Went pretty well. A lot of loggers showed up, so it was good to see. 13 out of 14 sales sold for an amount of $339,528.09. That's $109,102.27 more than the appraised value, so it turned out pretty well. The one sale that didn't sell was due to small volume, and a couple loggers had interest in it. If they were in the area, they could thin out the small pine stand that was on that sale. So, overall, went pretty well, and we'll expect to have some good sales on the next auction. And that was the first quarterly auction, so there's 3 more this year. The next item is an item that our department has been waiting for a while. It's to review and approve a low quote from Up North Power Sports to purchase a 2024 Polaris Ranger UTV with tracks. Up North Power Sports had the lowest quote out of 3 different dealerships. We got quotes from Up North, Okeson, and Bemidji Sports Center. They're all very, very close in price. So Up North actually had the lowest price before taxes and fees, and that's who I would suggest going with, being low quote, local business, and everything meets specifications on the machine. So, and this machine is one of the main tools we use in the woods. It's to get far back on the trails and set up timber. Those tracks are for the snow. This is the best time to set up timber sales, as in the wintertime with no leaves, so tracks are definitely needed. And I would just ask for approval to go with this quote.
I'll move to approve the low quote.
Dave moves.
I'll second.
Steve seconds.
Steve in second, yes. Corey, what's gonna happen to the old one?
We were gonna see how much we'd get on a trade-in, but if not, we'll put it on probably a bid process, so, yep.
Thank you.
Cody, have you been able to determine if the old tracks will fit on the sheriff's?
Jared, the deputy, is checking that out. We've been looking them over and measuring the specifications and serial numbers. So they also build if it doesn't fit, they build an attachment you can put on the hub to make them fit. So if we can save another department some money, that's a good thing. So.
Okay, further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Next thing would be another sponsorship request from Northwoods Riders OHV Club up north on the Schoolcraft Trail system. They do a very good job of keeping the trails clean and safe for riders. This will just be another sponsorship request for us to be their local sponsor and make sure they're maintaining things correctly.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Ted moves.
I'll second.
Tom seconds. Further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you. And the last thing, this was added on, as Jeff had said. It's a request to move a parcel that's in current conservation into non-conservation property. It's a parcel up by Potlatch that it'd be tough to manage for forest reasons. It's got right-of-ways in it. It's got road right-of-ways. It's got utility lines. It's got railroads next to it, and there's interest from a developer to purchase this property. And I've been working with the survey department to split. They're actually the same parcel number. I don't know if you guys can see the map, but they're the same parcel numbers, but the survey department was able to split the south parcel from the north, so there's 2 tracks actually. We would maintain the south tract as conservation with the Necktie River going through it. It is a trout stream, so I would suggest keeping that in county ownership. But this north tract, I'm requesting that we change it to non-conservation so we can add it to the parcel list for the
So-
next auction.
Track 1 or 2, you're asking us to.
Tract 1.
You want to keep track 1?
No, we would sell tract 1.
Sell track 1 and
Yep,
keep track
yep.
2. Okay.
Tract 2 with the river going through it, we
Yeah.
would keep for conservation.
Okay.
What's the setbacks from the necktie that's required?
So I believe as a trout stream, it's 165 feet for timber purposes. I'm not exactly sure on building purposes.
That one corner, it's gonna be okay on it?
I I would think so. I think it would be far enough. It looks like it's about the eighth of a mile away from the north track, so.
What are you talking about? That one? Yeah, that's what I thought, okay.
One thing with this, there's a railroad track
Ye-
that splits the two.
Yep, there's a railroad track that splits the two properties, so.
Is parcel 0797001000 the track in the middle?
It's an odd deal. That's owned by the railroad company. So I don't know, talking to Ryan and Eric from ESO, it's an odd deal why they had the same parcel numbers. They should have been separate parcels. So that's what they've been working on, and that's why I was late to put this on the agenda. They were able to finally split it up and get different survey, legal descriptions for each, so.
And I know it's tax forfeited land.
Yep.
This has happened when forfeited, I'm assuming.
Like 1940, yep, talking to.
So we don't have an issue there.
Nope, it won't impact.
Okay.
It wasn't recent, so.
Thank you.
Ted, can you point your mic a little closer? Sure. Thanks.
Yep.
Yep.
Board wishes?
Go ahead,
I'll make a motion to approve.
and I'll second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
All right, thank you. That's all I've got.
Sorry.
Have a good day.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners. I've just got two things for you today, kind of related to each other. I had mentioned about the joint powers agreement that we were working with the Region 2 Adult Mental Health Initiative, which is Hubbard, Clearwater, Beltrami, and Lake of the Woods County. And it really does tie into the second part of the coordinator that I'll be getting into. We're one of the last AMHIs that does not have a coordinator. There's going to be addition of more funding. They changed the funding formula for 2025 and beyond, and I'm actually was appointed to sit on the task force to finalize that. But so we had to come up with a governmental agreement in order to hire a coordinator for the AMHI. And so this joint powers agreement was drafted by Ann Gehring, our legal counsel. And it has all the specifics in it as well. And the other counties have all approved this. I was waiting to be last with knowing that we have to get the coordinator position approved, because that is tied into the joint powers agreement. So the first item, again, I don't know if you guys want me to go into the coordinator part as well, but
Go ahead.
okay. So the coordinator, I'm seeking permission to get this to work with HR to get the position description and everything brought forward. This is a pass-through type, and there was the conversation as to why Hubbard County would be housing this, or on paper housing this person was based on Lake of the Woods. They don't really have the structure up there to do that, to house it. Clearwater County, same type. It was just didn't really work. Beltrami County already is the fiscal host, so all the funding and all the accounting and everything goes through Beltrami County. And so we have a really good HR system here that allows us to, again, get this position hired. And the position is going to be, again, it's a pass-through. Technically, it's a part-time position, and in the joint powers agreement, it is in there that if the funding goes away, that this position will go away as well. There will be no county levy dollars put towards this whatsoever. And again, 100% of all of it is paid for by the AMHI. So what I'm looking for today is the approval of the joint powers agreement, as well as an approval for, to move forward with the coordinator to get this. This position will be managed by the board, or the executive committee per se. So the directors from the 4 counties, and it won't be housed anywhere. It's going to be a remote position because they'll be handling all the grant writing stuff that we have to do, the reporting to the state, and then working with all of the different providers in all the 4 counties to do reporting, the contract submissions and different things. So it gets to be, it's like the overall AMHI budget for Region 2 is just over $1.1 million. And it's a lot of things for us to do with all the compliance for each of the directors to try to coordinate. Whereas again, I think that we're one of 3 AMHIs in the state that don't have a coordinator. So this person will be organizing all of that, running the meetings, doing the updates, sending in the different state requests and stuff as well.
So is this person gonna be an independent contractor or a staff?
They will technically it'd be a staff
Or
member.
AMHI?
Correct. They will be technically they will be a staff of Hubbard County Human Services. However, they will be, just how we have it written up, it will be, and then once we get to the job description and get that written in there, it will be in there as well that they will be managed by the, and responsible to respond to the executive committee for the AMHI.
You mentioned a few things, Brian, but can you just summarize, how's this gonna make the service better?
So with the amount of providers, so we have the providers in Hubbard County, there's, providers in each county. We get a lot of requests that we don't feel that we're doing enough justice for the providers. There's a lot more that we could be doing. There are other grants out there that have asked to that we could get for, like, let's say the LACs are involved with this as well. So there is we've talked about it for a while of having a regional LAC meeting to kind of get
So for the public, could you explain what an
Oh,
LAC is, please?
Local advisory.
the local advisory committee. So these are individuals that have mental health issues that are on, that need some extra help. And so I know that Tom sits on the LAC board or committee. And so it's just a way for individuals that are not, that need a little bit of extra help with mental health and are able to access the services and provide the providers that are out there. I think, does that sum it up a little bit better for you? Yeah.
I'm kind of looking, for the benefit of the public,
Yep.
from a 10,000-foot level,
Yes.
how is this better than
Yep.
the way we're doing it?
So better this way, as there will be, this is a large pot of money again, and we're going to be getting more. And there's going to be an increase in the number and value of the services that we'll be able to provide. And so somebody specifically hired from the AMHI that will be able to coordinate and ensure the delivery of the services as they increase are going to be better, as opposed to what we've done now, which is kind of piecemeal, different counties. It's a regional grant, and that's what it's intended to provide regional resources, because we don't have all the resources here. They don't have all the resources in Clearwater County or Lake of the Woods, and this money is meant to bring the region together and provide a regional approach to this. And so this position will be able to organize it, operate it, much like maybe like an executive director of some sort, as it is a large pot of money.
So did the money come from the state or the feds?
Both. it comes from both the federal government and the state government for this, again, it's Adult Mental Health Initiative, the AMHI, and so that was put together to provide, again, mental health resources for individuals that need that, whether it's in crisis or just day-to-day living.
So if this person is an employee of Hubbard County and all the expenses are covered, does that include the benefits?
Correct. Yep. There will be zero cost to any of the counties, and this is actually coming out of the state updated their policies to allow a 10% administrative use of money as opposed it was 5%, and so they realized that they needed to do that in order to help the AMHI regions to pay for this, and so they upped it to 10%, and so that's where that will be coming out of.
Since this position will be an employee county, I think it'd be best to have a condition in the acceptance of the position that when the funds expire, this position is terminated. So that it doesn't get slipped through the cracks and end up staying an employed person when there's no more funds available.
Right. Yep. And again, I would totally agree with that. That's 100%. And that was part of my deal when I said that, yeah, I'll bring this to the board. But knowing that we have to have it in the job description as well as in at least mentioned in the joint powers agreement that this is not going to continue forward if the funding goes away.
Brian, does this person, would they be living in the region so that they could make in-person visits if they need to?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the other part is that the reason why they're going to be remote is because they'll be going to each of the counties, which are, we're on the far south end, Lake of the Woods is on the north end, and they will be expected to travel to each of the counties and meeting with all these providers and setting up a system of accountability and a system of organizing this to be able to be that contact person.
Okay, thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve this position and then add a condition that this position will be dissolved when the funds expire. So we just mentioned it again.
Yep,
Just make sure
no,
it's- make sure it's
again,
done.
like I said, 100%, that is
Okay,
absolutely.
okay.
I'll second that.
Dave seconds. Is there further discussion? So we're actually voting on 6B before vote 6A? Yep. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that motion carries. Then going back to 6A. I'm just reading through here. I don't see anything about what Tom mentioned.
I thought I remembered
Am I missing
reading
it?
something in there about that.
It was under 6B in the Region 2 coordinator. It was spelled out that if the financial end of it falls apart, that the position would be eliminated.
Okay, yeah, I misspoke. It would have been under in the job description under 6B.
Yes.
Does the board want any changes to the joint powers agreement?
And it may have been that it wasn't in the joint powers agreement now that I'm thinking about it, because that just gives us the agreement part of it, and then we can,
Just the umbrella over.
just the umbrella over it, and then the actual job description and duties will be where that would state that. I believe that's what our council had said.
So there is a section here, let me see, I gotta go back up to it. Let me find it, because there is an employment section here that defines the expenses.
Article 5.
Thank you. Do we want to add anything on Article 5, or do you feel that there's sufficient coverage in the coordinator?
I think it's covered in a coordinator, being that it'll be our employee. We would have
Okay,
quite a bit of latitude there.
okay.
Yeah, and once the position description and everything is made forward, I'll bring that as well to the board for approval, and that will be written in there.
So do I have a motion to approve the agreement?
So moved.
Okay, Ted moves. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Dave will second. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brian. Corey? You're doing better.
I am.
Good,
No more cane. It's healing up, so.
good.
All right, a couple items on the agenda, requesting the board to approve the quote for a new truck for STS. They'll be replacing 1999 Ford that they have. It's got just under 300,000 miles on it. So as you'll see, there was 3 quotes attached. We would recommend the low quote going to Park Rapids Ford for $57,516.84. The monies that will be used to purchase this is all donated monies. There's no, levy dollars going towards this at all. It's, like I say, it's all donated money, and they use their vehicles every day throughout the county for different projects, so.
I think you got your use out of the old one.
We did.
25 years and over 300,000 miles.
We did, yeah. We bought it, it was a couple years old when we bought it, I remember, but very good use to it, yeah. The box rotted off it, so they put a flatbed on it, and, yeah, it was a good truck, though, yeah.
We'll go on K-bid.
I think so.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll move to approve the low quote.
Okay, Dave moves. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I'll second.
Ted beat you to it, Steve.
That's fine.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, second item is requesting the board to approve the low quote for the purchase of a replacement drone for our Hubbard County Sheriff's Office drone program. This is a DJI Mavic 3 thermal, so you can, for search and rescue type of things, it's basically priceless for what you can do with that at night, searching for people. Half the money was donated funds from the Wolf Lake Baseball PAC. They donated $3,500 towards this project, and the other half we'll use out of miscellaneous dollars that was budgeted for in our '24 budget. And the low quote, I think, was Vertex out of Plymouth for $6,952.
Corey, do you find you use this quite a bit then?
It's certainly not every day, but
Yeah.
we do use it a handful of times a year, absolutely.
How many licensed pilots do you have?
I think there's 4, I believe.
4?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yep, and we currently have it's an older, larger, thermal drone now. It just, as you know how technology is, things get outdated and there's different, things that, come available, and batteries get hard to find, and this is very good replacement for half the price of what the old one was, so, yeah.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Okay. Further discussion?
Feels left out.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Motion carries.
All right, that's all I have, unless the board has
Yeah,
any
the
questions or
delay is
anything for me.
Nope.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Celine, do you want to come up too in case the board has questions? Sure. Thank you.
Good morning.
Marty?
Morning.
Hi. 2 items for the board this morning. The first is a conditional use permit application by Mike Soline. It's for a proposed RV campground on Pickerel Lake on the southwest corner. It involves 39 campsites, a stick-built cabin, and then an owner's residence. He's gone through a series of meetings with the Planning Commission and Board of Adjustment, obtaining some variances relative to the project that were needed, and then that led to the Planning Commission holding a hearing on the conditional use permit application itself. And the planning commission recommended approval of the permit with 12 proposed conditions that are in the packet. I know the board's well aware and familiar with this project already, so I can certainly answer questions, give more detail on any specific things that you'd like, but that's the general overview.
Do some public comment first, probably.
Should we do public comment first, or should we have, should we ask questions and do discussion on conditions first? Which would be the
Public
board's
comment
wishes?
might lead to more questions.
Okay, I have something I'd like to read before public comment, because I went through yesterday. And I looked at all the public comment and I wrote down the concerns. And so I just want to say that Hubbard County has no jurisdiction over any watercraft allowed on a lake. We cannot regulate hours any boat is on the lake. We cannot limit horsepower unless the entire lake is under the surface ordinance. We cannot prohibit fireworks. We do not regulate the management and staff of a campground. Regulations are already in place for smoking cigarettes and marijuana by a state statute. We can only restrict that in public settings. We have not required any other campground to put in a storm shelter for the last 20 years. We do not require any other campground to, to sanitize each boat every time it enters their property. And the Lake Emma Township has jurisdiction over Holly Road. We do not require funding for the AIS inspection hours by any individual. This is funded by the county, and any lake or person that wants to donate is all voluntarily done. Okay, who would like to, I will open up public comment. You have up to 3 minutes to speak. If you want to come up and sign in and then speak. What did you say, Dave?
Preferably new
Yeah,
information.
preferably new information. I believe every board member has read through all the public comments and made notes. Go ahead, sir.
Good morning. My name is Dave Nelson, 17942 Happy Drive. I'm a full-time resident on Pickerel Lake on the south side. This has been quite a process and quite educational, I guess, on how everything works. The view from the lake side, we're out on the lake looking in. What we see is a big dock system with all the boats. There's a larger recreation area and kayak racks and so forth. I'm a big kayaker. These will become the dominant visual features on the west basin of Pickerel Lake, and that'll be a change from the current development. My biggest concern is the large dock system and the number of boats that will be added to the lake. And I urge you to adopt conditions that would further scale back on the proposed number of boat slips. I don't know how it can be stated that the affected waters, Pickerel Lake, and particularly that west basin, is suitable for the number of watercraft that the use would generate with that large dock system. So I urge you to consider that. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Anyone else?
Hi, my name is Amy Strunk, and I was actually born and raised here in Hubbard County. My family's still from here. And we currently own a property on Pickerel Lake on the east basin. And we do operate a short-term rental business. So looking at this as another business owner-operator, we abide by all of the county rules that you put into place, which makes sense. We have 7-day minimum. We provide our own pontoon, our own boats, to reduce that risk of, like we talked about, contaminating the lakes, and you don't have a jurisdiction over boating. I think it's my personal responsibility, and I think that it makes everybody on the lake happy that we're doing things like that. We have and this is our 4th year, we've had about 4 groups bring their own boat. They all use ours that we provide. I'm nervous and would like urge you to do something to limit the amounts of boats that are in and on, through that docking system that is proposed.
Thank you, Amy.
Good morning. My name is Donna Bergman. My address is 17748 Happy Drive. I am also on the West Basin. Throughout this process, I have heard it stated that the land the RV park is to be developed on could be divided into 8 riparian lots. 8 riparian lots would not be developed and built on immediately. These would be developed. It would be a gradual increase of traffic on Pickerel Lake by 8 homeowners as the lots were purchased and built on. If you approve this CUP for the RV park, it will be 40 plus immediate users and boats on Pickerel Lake. That is a big difference. The RV park will be an instant, heavy increase of use on this small, shallow lake. I am concerned for safety. You chose not to do an environmental worksheet assessment of the impact of the RV park on Pickerel Lake. Do you have any information on the current health of Pickerel Lake? Who will monitor the future health of Pickerel Lake? What specific data points will you or who will you have track the future health of Pickerel Lake with the increased use of the lake with the addition of 39 RV sites and a rental cabin? If concerns about the lake health, animal migration patterns, or safety hazards become substantiated through data and observation, what proactive steps will the county take to address these issues? How long is the county planning to monitor the lake's health and safety before drawing any conclusions about the impact of the RV park? Will there be regular reports or updates made available to the public regarding these findings? What specific data are you going to collect or track? How frequent will this data be collected and analyzed? Transparent communication regarding these matters is crucial. It is essential for the community to be well informed about the ongoing monitoring and any measures taken to protect Pickerel Lake and its environment. I would appreciate any insight or reassurances that you can provide on these matters. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
My name is Jerry Werder. I live on Hunter Road. I'm within the shoreline ordinance. My son has property on Pickerel Lake. And I looked up the job description of county commissioners. County commissioners are elected officials who oversee county activities and work to ensure that citizen concerns are met. This is a neighborhood. So we're concerned, the neighborhood's concerned. You should be looking for us. You know, you shouldn't be concerned about people out of the county having a place to camp. I don't think that's not a priority. And yes, you have a developer coming in, but you gotta weigh the concerns of the neighborhood versus a developer. And I think the least you can do is cut this thing down in size. Protect that lake, it's shallow. The fish spawn in it. The crappies and the bass spawn in that bay. You gotta limit the docks. Just please listen to the people. That's who you work for. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, Jerry.
Mary Gabler, 18593 Ithaca Drive. And I guess that, I just want to do a quick summary. We don't know what the capacity of Pickerel Lake currently is. And when there's a disproportionate use being created by the addition of the campground, the non-riparian owner is putting a substantial increase in pressure on the lake. The riparian owners kind of wonder who bears the cost if something goes wrong here. I mean, we don't want to end up holding the bag on a lake that has become unhealthy or infested or whatever. We need to consider that. And it's just going to be a travesty if a campground meant to help people reconnect with nature basically ends up causing irreparable harm. So we need to make sure our lakes are safe, we need to make sure our lakes are healthy, and we need to make sure that our lakes provide the experience that people come here for. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Is there anyone else? Okay, we'll close public comment. How does the board wish to proceed?
I'd kind of like to go through the conditions.
That's what I was thinking too. Okay? And then as we go through, we make comments or
Yep,
ask
I got some
questions.
comments.
Yeah, go ahead. Do you want to read the condition and then?
Well, number one is pretty self-explanatory, it's standard in almost all of them, I think.
But just for the public, could you read?
You want me to read it?
Yes, please.
Okay. Condition number one, this conditional use permit is for the operation of the entire premises as one recreational vehicle camping area use venture. As such, any land that through subdivision or addition to the property through which the COP is granted is added or subtracted are not granted or allowed the right to operate in accordance with the COP without first applying for and obtaining the necessary COP from the county.
Does any board member have any problem with that or comment or anything?
That seems like pretty standard, but, you know, they can't increase their sizes or anything without getting another conditional use permit, so, or a variance from their current one, if it's granted to date.
Okay.
Yeah, the second one I do have a question on, and that is the overall number, types, and locations of dwelling units allowed to be placed on the property is shown in drawing number C4 in the COP application, which consists of 39 RV campsites, 1,500 square feet stick-built cabin, and a 1,500 square feet owner's residence. My question is that it's at 39 right now, and any more would trigger the EAW automatically, is that correct?
Not necessarily. There's multiple categories in the state rule that dictates when mandatory environmental review must occur, and so it would depend on what would be proposed and whether it would exceed any of those thresholds, as to whether or not an EAW would be necessary.
Okay, but if it's approved right now for 39 and he wants to add more later, is that done by permit or does it got to go through the COP process or amendment process?
Through the amendment process, yep.
That's what I'd like to see. So at least it could all go through the public comments periods and evaluation and see where, you know, if the 39 that we already have has affected the quality of the lake and the area and the neighborhood. Okay.
So I had a question related to the type in this condition, regarding STRs. I'm a little concerned if there's a seasonal camper on there, if that person could STR their seasonal property. Is that allowed under the CUP process, or are there limits there?
There's language in the ordinance that says that you can't have a mixed commercial residential use on the same property. Our language references that in a few different places of the ordinance, so that would be an item I'd want to double check with on council to make sure we were, you know, interpreting that properly. But worst case scenario, with how the short-term rental language in the ordinance is written, it would allow a maximum of 2 short-term rentals to operate on this property based on its size exceeding the duplex lot size standards. And so the ordinance caps it at 2 short-term rentals per property regardless of size once you get over that duplex lot size standard.
Okay, so I want Mr. Soline to understand then, so you could potentially have 2 STRs on that campground. You could probably use the cabin, but you would have to maintain 1 site of your own in order to do that, to have a second one.
Yep, I understand.
Yep, okay.
So then it would be up to you to monitor that no seasonal person renting your property is STR in there.
That was also a concern I had.
Yes, and that would also, of course, you wouldn't want that to happen too, because it'd be kind of double dipping on what could be new revenue for you.
Do we want to add anything or leave it as is?
Well, Eric answered that question on there. You know, the way it's written, it has to go through the amendment process in order to add more campgrounds. Okay, I'm satisfied with that.
Would it help if you moved up, Ken? Would it help if you moved up further?
No, Tom needs to speak. Tom needs to speak into his microphone.
Oh,
Okay,
I'm
yeah.
sorry.
Same problem with planning commission, board of
Yeah.
adjustment. I can't hear anything because nothing comes through in the speaker or for the people over the board.
Okay. And Steve, any comments you have? Make sure that you just chime in here.
Yes, I will. Thank you.
I'll read number 3 because I have some comments on that. Is that okay, Tom?
Oh, yep, you're sure.
Condition number 3, a maximum of 3 docks are allowed to be placed along the property shoreline in the location shown on drawing 4C4 in the CUP application. The furthest west of the 3 docks can have a maximum of 16 watercraft slips. All 3 docks must be designed, installed to the exact dimensions shown on the drawing labeled Proposed Centralized Boat Dock System for Decision Hill Campground in the CUP application. The accompanying Minnesota Department of Natural Resources aquatic plant management permits for the proposed docks must be obtained before the CUP operating permit can be issued. No overnight beaching of watercraft is allowed. So I was the board representative on the Board of Adjustment CUP board. And so I listened to that discussion. I thought Ken Grob, who's a member of that board, had very good comments about his concern for the lake. That's probably the number 1 concern I've heard from the public. When I reached out to the DNR, I was actually shocked. The DNR takes no stand on how many boats are allowed, and they don't do a lot about monitoring the quality of lakes. So I would propose, I agree with Ken, of scaling back the water slips at this time to 8. And then as time goes on, Mr. Saline could gain the trust of the public. We could see how his campground is run. We could see if there is what type of impact there is to the water, and then he can come back and request at a further time for more boat slips. We can't dictate, the motor size, we can't dictate what type of boats they are, but we can put a condition in there so we can try keep the lake as healthy as possible. Plus, we can also put in there that, somebody suggested you own the boats. I don't know if the board wants to go there. But anyway, let's have some discussion.
I'd like to add to that, I came up with similar conclusions because that seemed to be the number one concern from the public and all the comments that came. They're really worried about how this would impact the lake and specifically boat traffic. So I did have a chance to ask with Eric earlier about what would constitute a marina, because we don't allow marinas in our ordinance. And that's probably one area of our ordinance where we could use some clarification in the future and work on a little bit. In my mind, a marina is when you decide you want to rent or lease a slip or a watercraft to the general public. So that's the way I would define it, but not having any clarification on this, I think it's important that if he rents any slips or he rents any watercraft, that it should only be to the patrons of the campground. That would limit any public use. Secondly, regarding the dock system, the questions I wrestled with, and I think most of the public did too, is what do we feel is an appropriate amount and types of moorings? Section 1105, item L of the Shoreline Management Ordinance allows us to consider this. Assessment of the types, uses, and numbers of watercraft the project will generate in relation to the suitability of public waters to safely accommodate these watercraft. We all know that Pickerel Lake is very small. Our ordinance does not take into consideration when sizing a dock system in this case with the lake size or the depth or any of those things. That's another kind of glaring little weakness in our ordinance that needs to be addressed in the CUP. And so that's why we're here today, is to analyze that and come up with recommendations or what we think are conditions that would protect that particular concern. Due to the size of the lake and using some of the data provided by the DNR studies that the public provided, I would like to see the number of moorings limited to 10, 8 for client use and maybe a couple rentals. I'm not as concerned with rentals because rentals are not going to be going on and off the lake. And to have a small little pontoon that patrons could rent would be a nice amenity for the campground to have. If it was divided into 8 riparian lots, you could have eight boats or more. So I think it's reasonable to have allow 8 slips and a couple rentals. Or any combination of that. If he wants to do 6 slips and 4 rentals, that would be up to Mr. Celine, as long as it doesn't exceed 10 and doesn't exceed 8 customer slips. This would again align closer to what would be allowed for 6 to 8 riparian lots if they were developed. And this coupled with, a kayak canoe rack on the shore would give Mr. Celine plenty of watercraft and the customers access to the lake with those watercraft. Also, according to section 905, item 1 of the Shoreline Management Ordinance, uses that require short-term watercraft mooring for patrons must centralize those facilities and design them to avoid obstructions of navigation and to be the minimum size necessary to meet the need. If we end up scaling back the amount of slips and rental slots, that the dock size should be the minimum required to accommodate that. I feel this could be done with a dock with a maximum length and width of 84 by 80 feet. Using 8-foot slips and 4-foot wide docks and putting a watercraft on each end of the T, you would be able to accommodate that. This will also have some added benefit of reducing the impact to vegetative plants. However, it is a accommodation of additional watercraft on the small lake that is the main concern. If the slips in traffic determined to be less of an issue than anticipated after a few seasons, then the applicant could reapply for a few more slips via the CUP amendment process. I think it is prudent to take a slow approach to this, since this particular lake is small in size, shallow, and very shallow, and shallow, and of course has some sensitive shoreline we should be concerned about too. So that'd be my comments on condition 3. I would like to see, a maximum of 10 slips, 8 for customers and 2 for rentals, and the size scaled back to 84 by 80.
Mr. Celine, how many rental boats were you planning on having?
I was planning on having 6.
6, okay.
That's what my intention was.
Okay, and that was my question, is if you had 6 rentals, then there would only be space for 10 boats, if there's only 16 slips.
Correct.
My high school math didn't fail me there. Let's see, and then you talked about canoes and kayaks. I didn't know if those were gonna be allowed to be on racks on the shore.
My understanding that's allowable.
It will be allowed, okay, because in,
However, the planning commission didn't specify anything on that, if I'm correct, Eric, right?
Correct. There isn't a condition that they proposed to address that.
But it can be allowed in the recreation area anyhow, can it not? You just can't beach it, correct? So we really wouldn't need to limit that size of the rack or anything like that. As long as it's up in that area, it's up to him. Just can't beach him.
However, it was my impression, excuse me.
it's okay.
It was my impression at the meeting that the Board of Adjustment didn't care if they were on a rack, they could just be on the ground. Was that correct? Or did they want them on a rack? I don't remember.
I, excuse me, don't recall if they got into that level of detail.
The reason do you remember? Because
It wasn't specified.
it wasn't specified. Yeah, I didn't think they took that up. I thought they just kind of left it.
No.
Go ahead.
Lost my train of thought.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I remember now. There was comments about beaching watercraft in only this area. I don't know if we need to spell that out in the conditions at all. Because you've got 1,500 feet of lake shore. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of good areas to be beaching a boat, but I think that was kind of one of the emails that I read. They asked about that, and I guess that kind of makes sense. If you've got a dock area, I don't think we really want to have people beaching their boats elsewhere on the property.
I would have a problem if a customer decided to beach their boat anywhere else other than the waterfront recreational area.
I don't know if we need to spell that out or not.
It is part of the proposed condition that the last statement in proposed condition 3 says no overnight beaching of watercraft is allowed. I suppose you could extrapolate that or expand that to address daytime as well.
And I could see, like Shar had mentioned previously, you come to shore with your boat, you're gonna go up and have lunch or whatever, and then you plan to go back out. Boat, canoe, kayak, whatever. I can understand where that's beach during the day is not an issue. It's just that, like I say, if all of a sudden they start beaching because maybe they, for whatever reason, like I say, if it's can be confined to that recreational area.
Did you want to insert any language into condition 3 on that?
I don't know if the applicant, Mr. Celine, isn't advocating for that. You know, I think that he wants to run a nice campground.
It'll be well run.
So I think I'm fine with that.
Okay.
If it gets,
Madam Chair, if I could give a little input
Yes.
briefly. From a public safety standpoint, I'm not gonna weigh in on the, what, additional boat traffic is gonna do to the quality of the water. I'm gonna chime in only on, from a public safety aspect, which is what I'm in charge of in this county. A lake this small, I'm just gonna tell you that my recommendation is scaling back drastically on the number of boats the size of it, in my opinion, has no business with a large increase of, call it weekend traffic, whatever you want. People that come up to a campground like this are here for recreational purposes. Okay, and if you think that the jet ski use, the water skiing use, the tubing use, that activity is not gonna increase drastically, I think we all know better, because I think it will, and which is where I'm in charge of this. And from a public safety standpoint, I see problems if allowing the number of slips that they're requesting. If that many boats show up to have fun, there's gonna be problems. It's too small of a lake for something not to happen. That's my input. I said what I said. Again, I'm not chiming in for the purpose of water quality, because I don't know. You know, erosion, I don't know. But the public safety part of it, scaling back, like the discussion that you're having, I think is certainly a good idea.
Thank you, Corey. Did you have more, Ted, or you? Okay.
I can go with the 8, and then, you know, it can always come back several years later after being in operation, and keep monitoring how much boat traffic comes on the lake, and then you can go through the amendment process to increase it further if the data indicates that it would be safe to do so. So, yeah, I'd be in favor of 8.
Okay. Steve, do you have comments?
Well, I'm in favor of 8 as well. I've kind of thought it over, and Commissioner Delahunt's points make a lot of sense. But I think a lake that size, we really need to be considerate about the environment more than a financial purposes by any means.
And I would add, you know, I know Mr. Celine, you would have liked 16. And I know the ordinance, based on the way it's written, allows a much greater number than that. But again, because of the size of the lake and the concern of the traffic, I think we need to move slow on this and make sure we're doing the right thing here. I don't know where the rest of the boards are. 8 seems like the number of slips that you're comfortable with the customer. Are you comfortable with a couple rental units slips being available to him also?
I would include that in the 8.
And the 8 total is where you'd want to be?
Yep.
Well, I was kind of thinking if we went with 8 or 10, I kind of liked your idea with 10, but not limiting the number of rentals he could have. If he, say, had 8 or 10 slips and he wanted to have half of them as his rental boats, that could only improve the lake's chances of not getting AIS. So if we limit the number of slips, I don't think we should limit the number of his personal. And then if there's an option where he can, say he's got 8 and he's got a couple of rentals out there, but now he's got campers or people that are renting from him who want to bring out more boats, versus him taking his to the public access, would we allow him to have some area on the shore where he could pull up his rentals and have them out of the water to accommodate?
To your point, I think the way we could write that condition, Ted, is a maximum of 8 customer slips, but 10 slips overall. That way, if he wanted them all to be rental slips, he could do that. And to be honest with you, I would prefer rental slips over customer slips, but I know that's not practical either in the business model probably. But if he wanted to have 4 rentals and 6 customer slips, that would be his prerogative, as long as we put a cap on the amount of customer slips, used slips. So I think the way to write that in the condition would be a maximum of 10 slips with restricting to 8 customer slips.
Well, then I would suggest a maximum of 8.
Period.
Period.
Yeah, that'd be the way to do it. You don't have to mention anything about.
He can do with them what he wants.
I was gonna, just something for you to consider from a business side, if you look at things. And I look at it from all perspectives, but I just want to share from a business side of things. And to the environmental side of things, the 16 was purposely done so that way I could have a smaller group of rental boats, and then the other ones would be primarily for seasonal rentals. By limiting the scope of that, I'm gonna have to change and look at making it feasible to get a return on my investment when it comes to a dock system. And so
Although
I want to
remember, you'd be
minimize
shrinking
the
that
number
dock
of
system.
boats that come into the lake in and out, not having customers on the campground swapping their boats in and out. I'm trying to do my best to make sure we don't have any aquatic invasive species come into the lake. By limiting that, potentially, I don't know what it is, potentially that risk can increase.
Remember though, too, if you limit the slip size, your dock size can shrink accordingly too. So that investment
The
amount
length, the
drops
length
some.
out, not so much, because it is a shallower part of the lake. It is, the length of it is to get navigable waters for that furthest out section.
And the types of watercraft you're proposing to put in there, I've been on a place on Long Lake that had proposed campground in a very sensitive area that didn't pass, but now there's VRBOs in there. I've been in there, and you can navigate in 2 feet of water with the smaller boat you propose, or a small pontoon with a 25 horse on it. It's not that difficult, so your dock doesn't necessarily have to be that long. You do want the top parts, the T parts, to be out in 4 feet of water, but the interior slips would not have to if you had interior slips.
Yeah, generally, deeper water is better for both the boats and the lake itself, because you're not gonna stir up any sort of the bottom of the sediment as much.
Well, trust me, the sediment's gonna get stirred up around that dock, even at 4 feet of water. But if they stay within the confines of what's normal, eventually it stabilizes to what it is, and it doesn't create any more problem. So it's going to happen.
Right, there's gonna be some change, obviously, until, like you mentioned, it stabilizes.
So quite frankly, when I started looking into this, I actually was shocked the DNR doesn't take a stand on this. And so I don't have a problem with the land part of your campground, but I do have a problem with the size of the lake and the depth of the lake, trying to sustain this. And then Corey's talking about safety, because the way the lake is, everybody that uses that lake just has this little bit of area to do any type of speed, and the rest of it is very shallow. So although I can appreciate you wanting more boat slips, I really feel that this is the one area that we can try to do what we can to protect the lake, plus still allow you the opportunity to run this campground as an investment.
Can I also ask a question when it comes to short-term rentals? Are they also viewed in the same light? Because I believe, I don't know, but the DNR doesn't restrict their docks or the number of boats that they can have on the lake or slips.
That may be to some degree, but the concern here is the lake.
I
This
understand.
particular lake.
Yep.
If you had this on Long Lake, Potato Lake, Big Sand Lake, any other bigger lake that's, 1,200 or more acres, I don't think anybody would be sitting here debating this like we are on this particular point, but it's not. And my point about going slow with this is, you've done everything you needed to do. You've done it correctly in the right way, which I certainly appreciate. And you tell us what you're going to do on the lake and how you want to operate this. But I'm a bigger believer in show me, don't tell me. And so I want to start slow and know that you are doing exactly what you say you're going to do, and that the neighbors are somewhat comfortable with this and how you're operating. And if that turns out to be the case, great. Everybody's in a much happier place. Come back. If you need a few more slips, we can consider it again, But right out of the chute, and you might find out, I talked to a resorter on Long Lake that's got 8 beautiful cabins, 16 campsites. A lot of power boats are brought to this resort. They have their own ramp. They only have 6 docks. They've never had a problem with mooring. Now granted, quite a few of them move their boats in and out at the end of the day because they have the access right at their site, but that's on a highly, a big lake that has a lot of powerboat traffic on it and a lot of recreational sports on it. And they said they never filled their 6 docks or had an issue with it. In addition, they rent like 4 or 5 fishing boats, small fishing boats, and a couple pontoons. And the comment was, we probably have the fishing boats rented maybe 4 to 6 weeks, and maybe out of those weeks, 10 to 20% of the time, where the pontoons are 50% of the time. So I'm not so sure from a business model, that's your business, and I'm telling you how to run it, but that's part of my rationale for starting slow. You might find out you don't need anymore.
I'd be going with a phased approach. Wouldn't be like this year or next year, I'd roll out all 16 slips. And I mentioned that in the planning commission meeting as well, that I would like to be able to phase it out at a time.
And I understand that, but I would be more comfortable, and I think based on what the board said, would be more comfortable having a limit on the number of slips, and then if that's to change, you come back and ask for more.
And the public and Corey would be more comfortable, I believe, from a safety standpoint.
And then he'd be able to show instead of just tell. He can say, well, here's the traffic I'm getting off of 8 slips. I mean, it's not anything near what has been said, or it could turn out the other way, and then we'd be glad that we did limit it to 8.
Yep.
So I'm still in favor of 8.
So, Eric, should we do this like the Board of Adjustment does? So as we've been talking about this, so we want changes in 3, so should we insert them now?
And vote on it.
If we have
And vote on
consensus
it?
on it?
Yeah, just have a consensus.
Sure.
Okay. So I think we have a consensus on at least 8. What's the board's wishes?
I'm with 8.
I'm at 8 too. Steve, what are you at?
8.
Okay.
I can live with that.
Ted, what would you like?
I'd say the majority of the board would like to have 8.
And what would you like? It doesn't matter, right? Okay, so 8 slips. And then Dave wanted an inserted a dock size of 84 by 80. How does the board feel about that?
I think that's just naturally gonna happen if we limit it. I mean, if he comes back and asks for more slips sometime in the future and we grant it, obviously you're gonna have to expand the dock to accommodate that. So based on the design he had on there and calculating the 8-foot slips and the 4-foot dock sections, should be able to do it in an 84 by 80
Okay.
footprint.
Any flexibility in case I can work with Eric and his department in case I need to get to deeper water for it to be for the 8 boats,
So you'd be a little concerned about the length?
the depth.
Yeah. You guys are comfortable with that, go up to, I think you had 120
125.
some, is 100 reasonable?
I
I mean,
think
I
I'm
hate to
gonna
have
need-
that thing so far out, because like I said, I know I can navigate with a little 14-foot boat with a 9-horse on it. I can navigate in 1.5 feet of water without any problem. I can navigate a small 18, 20-foot pontoon with a 25-horse in 1.5 feet, 2 feet of water. There's no stumpage in where you're at there, really. It's just.
I would
kinda-
hate to have a customer with a motor get into the ground, hit a rock or something like that, when it's possible to get out a little bit deeper.
Board wishes?
Board thing.
Well, I have no problem with how far he's got to go out with his docks. It's just the number of slips.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too, is that you want to be able to get into deeper water,
And
whether
the-
it's 3 feet or 4 feet. And I think Mrs. Soline would, in a sense, you know what your customers are going to want. If we're only going to allow 8 slips, and say you have a customer or two that has a larger boat, and they're not comfortable in that shallow of a water, now are they bringing it in and out every day? And we know that there is a small access there, so that's what I think about too, is how many times do we want people using the access?
On the DNR regulates the dock size, correct? And how it's put in? Is that correct, Eric?
Yeah, they'll review it, and so far they've said it would fall under their general dock permit and not need any special additional permitting.
Yeah, so maybe I'm out in left field a little bit when I talk about the footprint of the dock. It's more about the slips. He's not, obviously not gonna, I wouldn't build more dock than I need to handle 8 slips. It'd be a waste of money. And then let the DNR determine how far out he can go.
Okay, then the other thing was, do we want to specify anything about having a canoe or kayak rack on shore?
Well, if you say nothing, you can have one out there. I don't think we need to.
Oh, I was thinking if we say nothing, they might just be sitting on the ground.
I think it looks more tidy if there's a rack. Or more than one rack. It depends, I guess, on how many people come with their canoes and kayaks and stuff.
Didn't you say that you're gonna have those for rent or use?
I'll have a few out there for free to use, and then if they wanted to reserve, they could.
So I would like to see in here that those he owns are racked.
Well, whatever we do, I think we should encourage the use of kayaks and canoes.
Mhm.
Yes.
So allow whatever is necessary to encourage the use of them.
Okay.
I guess I'm not that concerned about that. I mean, a regular property owner could certainly throw their canoes up on shore or up further on shore and leave them there if they want. I don't think that's probably good for a canoe. I think I'd personally rather have my canoe or kayak racked, but
The way it happens at my homeowners association is that we have racks for them, and people use them and leave them on the shore throughout the day, and then at the end of the day, they put them up on racks. It works really fine.
Steve, do you have any comments?
No, I would prefer, I guess, I would prefer to see them racked in the evening, but the daytime use isn't a problem at all.
Yeah, right, I was only thinking evening. Yeah. Ken, did you have a comment about the Board of Adjustment meeting?
Yes, I think you could add the word motorized watercraft. I know Mr. Soline is gonna promote canoes, kayaks, and so on. And that original intent in the shoreline management ordinance is to keep people from adding extra mooring spots by pulling up on shore. I think it would give him relief if you would say that no overnight beaching of motorized watercraft is allowed. It would give him a little bit of relief for the topic you're having.
Okay, thank you.
I'm reluctant to speak up very much here, but I think that would help, and I think that was part of our discussion, maybe at Planning Commission Board of Adjustment.
Thank you, Ken.
Makes sense.
Do you like that idea? Okay. So Eric, to insert, no overnight beaching of motorized watercraft is allowed?
Okay.
Are you okay with that, Steve?
Yes.
Okay.
What are the other wording changes you would like? I know 8 slips, but there's a lot of detail there that has been amended in the discussion.
Yeah, so how do you propose we should change the wording? Because it's not, it no longer goes along with the designed.
Right.
I think you could say, obviously, the furthest west of the 3 docks can have a maximum of 8 watercraft slips. And then the proposed drawing for the centralized boat dock system would have to come back and meet environmental services approval and obviously DNR approval. It's gonna end up scaled down over what it is. If it's similar in nature and just scaled down, it should be fine.
You almost have to eliminate the section that says, designed and installed to the exact dimension showed in the drawing.
Yeah, in the application. Yeah.
If your limitation is to 8 slips, you'd have to eliminate specifically, and then you just have to see the DNR permit, dock permit before you could issue the operating permit from.
It's gonna be in a non-permitted design, so I don't know if you just need an email then from the DNR that says it doesn't need a permit.
Yeah, that would suffice.
It should, yeah.
So can you work up some wording before we do our vote at the end?
Yeah, well, I can read to you what I've got so
Okay,
far.
go ahead.
Maximum of 3 docks are allowed to be placed along the property shoreline in the location shown on drawing number C4 in the CUP application. Furthest west of the 3 docks can have a maximum of 8 watercraft slips. The accompanying Minnesota DNR aquatic plant management permits for the proposed docks must be obtained before the operating permit can be issued, and no overnight beaching of motorized watercraft is allowed.
Okay.
If there's any way when we're going through and designing this dock, you can do it in an L instead of a T, you would also limit the amount of vegetation that would get tore up. So if you had boats on the top and like that, that would be beneficial too, than a large T. It'd have less of an impact on the square footage that gets disrupted.
Do we want any wording about racks, or should we just leave it in?
I think we could leave it.
Yeah, just that no motorized
Okay.
ones are on there. So yeah, did you add that on there?
Yeah, you did. Okay, so I think we're done with 3. Okay, so 4, 50% of the shore impact zone must be kept in the existing vegetative state. Exhibit A attached depicts the portions of the shore impact zone that together comprises this 50%. I had a question from someone from the public asking if we wanted to be specific on vegetative state, but as long as it's, you're not gonna go out and monitor other than if it gets bare, right?
We know what the existing state is. We've got that well documented in aerial imagery, so
Okay.
we'll be able to tell if there've been changes made to that. In that requirement of the ordinance that be a condition is redundant to the language we have in section 901 that deals with vegetative alterations, that essentially doesn't allow manipulation of the existing vegetation in the shore impact zone anyway.
And that's what I was kind of curious why this was in there. If the shore impact zone can't have any vegetative, any vegetation removed except for a path, I don't understand. I can understand where Mr. Soline's plans on putting a home. I can understand that area being cleared out a little bit, you know, to give you sight lines to the lake and stuff like that. But then the other area where there's a gap here that shows on the map, I don't understand why, in a sense, we're deviating from the shoreline management ordinance where you can't remove vegetation, and now we're allowing 50% to be removed.
And that's what I was trying to explain, that it doesn't allow the areas that aren't included in the 50% area to just be cleared without oversight. That's still regulated by that section 901 in the ordinance.
Okay.
And the reason why we're required to place a condition that specifies 50% is that's in our ordinance because it's in the state shoreland rules, and for whatever reason, that's something that the state felt they wanted to have in there.
Okay, thank you.
Are we good with 4? Number 5, one swimming area, 45 feet in the width along the shoreline is allowed to be created and maintained in the area labeled as such on drawing number 4, C4, in the conditional use permit application on the condition that the required aquatic plant management permit allowing this swimming area is issued by the Minnesota DNR. And then further down in another one, it talks about no sand will be allowed, so I think that covers this. He cannot bring sand in.
Above the ordinary high water mark, the state regulates sand blankets that are able to be placed below the ordinary high water mark.
Okay. Does anybody have comments on 5? Okay. Number 6, the 2 shoreline recreational use areas approved in the variance 47-V-23 must be covered and maintained to permanent vegetation. Here we go, no sand beach area is allowed on either of these shoreline recreational use areas.
There was a public comment that asked why the use area was so large in square footage. And I followed that through the planning commission thing, and in the end, if he had to move that recreational use area back 50 feet to meet the buffer requirements, then it would be taking out a lot of trees to accommodate that. So they felt the trade-off was to allow that and leave the trees and the little bit of elevation that goes up the way it is a better situation than limiting that and having that buffer area in the impact, or in the shoreline use area, having that 50-foot buffer. Better trade-off is to leave the trees and not disrupt the ground as much.
Okay, I'm gonna ask this question, and to when the board wishes to discuss this. I did talk to Mr. Celine about this when we were out for the lot view. I personally would like him to put a path from the campground to the recreational area, that one on the
Second one, yeah.
the second one. So his campers would not have to use the road as a way to get there, and he was open to doing the path. So that would be a condition I would like to insert, and I don't know if you.
Possible?
That's right away of the township, and it's also within the, next to the lake. I guess I'd have to ask Eric if it's, because you're gonna have to do some land manipulation there to flatten that out. There's probably about a 40, 50-foot area where it has quite a slope down, and you just go right down into where the wetland area is.
So if you came around to where the road is here, and then you had the fence here, on the majority of it, couldn't you put it alongside the fence on your side of the property?
There's quite between the rec area, there's kind of lower line area. There's probably a good solid 50 feet where it has pretty good grade going down towards that wetland area from the road. For someone who has balance or mobility issues, that'd be extremely challenging for them to stay on it as it exists today.
That's what I kind of wondered too, is when we walked it, I thought that there was room down at the bottom of the ditch, but I also see now that there is another 25 feet of right-of-way. So what would have to, is that something that the township would have to okay, a path down in there? That part I had a question on.
Not sure, I couldn't speak for what the township might or might not require, or whether they'd allow that or not.
Yeah, it's not like I'm thinking it's a footpath. It's not like there's gonna be motorized use from the camping area to that recreational area. But I noticed on the map that they showed the road, and then they showed another 25 feet of right-of-way. And I didn't know if that was gonna be an issue.
So that was one of the other main concerns of the public.
Yeah.
So how can we resolve this?
Yeah, this is.
Well, may I interject?
Yep, go ahead, Steve.
I think anything that happens in the township right away needs to be approved by the township. I don't think we have any authority to get into that issue. I would like to see a path going to the recreational area outside of the township right away and on his property, and that's about where I'm at.
And Steve, I agree with you, but Dave just showed me on the drawing, and Mr. Celine talked about it steep down in the one area. So it would be hard to put the path
Without
through
moving
that.
a lot of earth.
Tom, go ahead.
This is the one area of the campground thing that I really don't, I think that second rec area wasn't a very good idea to begin with, but it's been approved by variance. I'm just wondering if a boardwalk can be put in there going through one of the wetlands.
Sure.
You don't think it could? Because I've seen some developments where they got a whole big marsh area in between buildable land and the lake, or they had to put a long boardwalk into there. I mean, couldn't the boardwalk be put through here?
The problem in this case is that that wetland falls below the ordinary high water mark, so it's part of the public waters, and the DNR, for every instance I've dealt with, has not allowed people to put permanent boardwalk stocks out over the public water.
Yeah, it would be monstrous.
Is it
Oh, go ahead.
coming down the shoreline, is it high enough there to put a boardwalk?
It's, the soil there is quite unstable, it's quite mucky.
Yeah, well, that's why I said, this is one part of the development that I have a problem with, is that second rec area.
So, go
It's
ahead.
approved by variance, so.
So Jonathan or Corey, if there was a camper that was walking along the road and there was an accident, who's liable? The person driving the vehicle, or?
Well, it just depends on the circumstances. I mean, was somebody within, walking where they shouldn't have been? Was the driver, outside of its lane? You know, it all depends on the circumstances.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, everybody is liable. I mean, anybody involved could get sued at any given time, but as far as liability goes, the board has to, right now, as it looks at it, make a determination on whether or not they feel that it's appropriate.
I personally think it's a bad thing that the only way that people can access this is on a township road. Because there's vehicles. We know they're gonna be.
So just plain devil's advocate a little bit,
Yep.
not that it really matters to me, that, but any other campground or any other township or county road, I know down where I live, people walk on the road all the time
I agree.
for exercise.
I agree with that. But this is a planned activity in a campground that the only way to get there is to walk on a. People are walking on the township road, what you're bringing up, they're choosing to do that, but they have alternatives.
What did you propose to have in this second area?
Just picnic tables, viewing area, outdoor activities if they want to bring out, you know, a bocce ball set or something.
I think that, I'm fine with it being there. I think that if you get people that are using the campsites, aren't comfortable walking on the road, they won't use it. And I also don't think it's a very busy road.
No, it's very, very light going from that part north. Most of the traffic is gonna go south.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. You've got is it County Road 40, you've got about 1.25 miles, and then from the other area, you've got about 1.5 miles-ish. And I don't know if there's a whole lot of traffic going through that, using that as a through road type of a thing. I think, yes, there's risk, and there's probably risk in everything in life, but this is one of those that I would like to see something in the ditch, you know, a pathway or something, but if it's not possible at this point, I don't think using the road is that unreasonable.
I would like to see something from the township and Mr. Celine having an agreement if they're amicable to doing that. It is their right of way. I don't think we have any or any authority in that right of way.
So Steve, I agree, we don't have any authority. But I'm gonna ask you, are you wanting to put in a condition that he works with the township if possible, or are you just making a statement?
I'm just making a statement. I think it needs to be recorded somewhere on paper that the township does not have an issue with it, or if they do, it states what their issue is. I think they would have to be the ones to approve a walkway or a pathway, or at least have that solid discussion with them.
I think it really comes down to here, and what we have authority on is either to approve the second use area or not. And we can encourage him to speak with the township about it, but, short of either approving the second use area or not, we really have no authority over.
It's been approved by
It's
variance.
been approved by variance, so we don't have authority.
Oh, we don't then,
No, we don't.
and it is,
Okay,
I'm just wondering if, I've walked on boardwalks on the sides of mountains, and, we have one side has deep poles going down. Why couldn't a boardwalk be put right along the township road?
It's their,
But off of the road, and then it would be high enough maybe it would be high enough out of the wetlands area where it would meet the state's requirement of not being below, at water level.
I think one, you got the township, it's, they're right away. Secondly, I think there's a lot of other things I haven't looked at when it comes to that wetland, and I know the state and the Department of Natural Resources get very sensitive anytime you do any dirt movement or any construction around any wetland, and I want to avoid any adverse impact or any sort of issues that may arise.
I would think that over time, if you saw people wanting to use that area and there was issues, then he could probably research it more and maybe find a solution. Whether we need to address it today, I don't know.
well, with it approved by a variance, the only thing I think we can do is encourage you to work with the township on it.
okay. Number 7, on the proposed walking paths located within the 100-foot ordinary high mark setback, all lighting devices must be placed on bollards that do not exceed 4 feet in height and are designed to direct light downward so that they only illuminate the walking paths. Any changes we want made there?
No, I think the planning commission kind of did that so that there isn't light pollution.
Yep.
But yet still safe to walk on a path.
Number 8, quiet hours of 10:30 PM to 7 AM must be kept on the property every day of the week. I have a comment on that. Short-term rental quiet hours are at 10 o'clock to 7 AM, I believe, and so I would expect that this also should have to comply with 10 PM to 7 AM.
Madam Chair, I have a question on that.
Okay?
That particular rule, is that something that the developer is simply required to post for his guests? Because I'm a little curious how the enforcement is with that. Because I'm just afraid that if people complain about his quiet hours, it's gonna be to my office. And we simply don't enforce anything outside of state statute, which would apply. This would simply be, I guess, a conditional use violation possibly. So I'm just curious, what requirement is probably more of an Eric question.
It's an Eric question.
Yeah, what requirement is for the developer on that, and what's the enforcement part of that?
Outside of making it consistent, I'm really not concerned with it that much because the nearest resident is, 500 feet on one side and 750 feet on the other side, and there's a lot of vegetation and things like that. Though noise does carry over water, but quite well, I would expect based on what Mr. Soline has proposed here in that I don't think you're gonna have the type of camper there that's gonna be all that ruckus.
I can speak a little bit to it since it is enforcement and that comes to my office. Corey, the short answer is refer it to Eric's office, at which point if there's consistent, really even one would be enough for us to enforce a violation of the CUP. But if there's consistent violation of that 10:30 to 7, and we have evidence of that, we will bring a violation of the CUP and enforce that violation against the developer. That's how that will work.
So for 17 years, we lived on a lake that had restaurants, and they were allowed outdoor music in the summer. And that was just part of summer. But we all breathed a sigh of relief when 10 o'clock hit. I would like the hours changed to 10 o'clock, not 10:30.
I stay at a number of campgrounds during the summer, and 10 o'clock is pretty well the average. I mean, primary time that they've used. I've seen some at 11, but most of them are at 10.
I've seen a lot of 10:30 and like you said, there's a rare occasional 11 from when I was looking around campgrounds in Hubbard County.
And that was my question is, if we don't have it in the ordinance, what's the other campgrounds at? I know short-term rentals are 10 o'clock, and that makes sense to be, as David said earlier, consistent. I could go either way on that.
Steve, comments?
I guess I'm thinking about short-term rental aspect of it, and the reason that is 10 o'clock, I believe, is because you're so closely adjacent to neighbors, houses and such. He is a fair distance away from any adjoining property owner's residence. So I guess I could go either way with that.
Okay, so board wishes?
I recommend leaving it as a planning commission has it
Okay.
then.
Okay.
10:30?
Number 9, the 2 proposed subsurface sewage treatment systems to service the RV campground must be installed per the submitted designs and pass inspection before the CUP operating permit can be issued. It's pretty self-explanatory. Number 10, no digital signage may be placed on the property. Any and all signage placed on the property must comply with the county sign ordinance. We have a sign ordinance. Number 11.
Just
Oh, go ahead,
just
Steve.
one quick comment.
Yep.
Does the township have any sort of sign ordinance? Because some townships do have zoning that specifies what the sizes can be. Is that known at all?
I don't believe Lake Emma Township has any such ordinance.
Okay, all right, thank you.
On the campsites, any decks, platforms must be no larger than 8 by 10 feet. Any shed can be no larger than 6 by 8 feet. And any impervious surface area in Tier 2 cannot exceed the impervious surface area percentage authorized in variance 47-V-23. Each campsite is allowed no more than 1 deck or platform and 1 shed. Any changes there? Number 12, is a license from the Minnesota Department of Health is required to operate the proposed campground use. A copy of the initially issued license must be provided to the county before the CUP operating permit can be issued. Okay. And then Eric, I would like you just to address the questions that, where's my piece of paper?
I got one more
Oh,
potential
go ahead.
condition.
Okay, let's do that first.
Eric may help me out with this, but I really think we should have a condition on there that no on-site boat access would be allowed at this property, period. That could be-
Are we in there?
No, it's not in there, but you stated you wouldn't put one in there.
Yeah,
I listened to the recording, he said at this time, he said he might look at it in the future, so.
I have no desire just because of the amount of effort, the cost, and then also just the headaches of, you'd have to work with the DNR and also, it's just not worth it. And I don't want it anyways.
Yeah, and the reason I put it in, because life goes on beyond our time here.
Okay.
Somebody else could purchase the property from you someday and go through the process, because it is allowed by ordinance.
With the
So I'd like to
variance.
put I'd like to put the restriction in there, number 13, that, no on-site boat access is allowed.
Yeah, I go along with that one, because that's
would
in my notes too.
I agree.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Dave. Okay, and then I just have one other thing, Eric, for you to address before we talk further on this. So Donna had a list of things that she was questioning about how we would monitor. Can you address those if you need a copy? I had talked to you prior to the meeting. Do you want a list of them, or you want to just talk in general?
just in general, those are things that the county doesn't have the authority or have any current or historic or planned, for that matter, programs that would monitor those things. Most of that is done by various state agencies.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, I apologize for having to answer the phone during your discussion on number 6.
Did you have any comments you wanted to make on
No,
that,
I just
Tom?
want to know what your outcome of that was.
I gotta get back up to 6.
As is.
As is? Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Is there any further questions for either Eric or Mr. Celine, or further comments, or what does the board wish to do?
I just have a few other comments I'd like to make. Pretty much took care of most of the stuff I had considered from public comment as being very important, but there's a few things I'd like to encourage the developer to do. We would like, I would like to see the developer be encouraged to not allow jet skis, wakeboard boats, or mooring at the docks. To whatever in your campground rules, try to come up with some way to do that. They're just not, I can't believe anybody who would bring something like that to Pickerel Lake, even on the landing, if they went out there within 5 minutes, I think they'd be off the lake and on to somewhere else. It's just not conducive to it, and I don't think it'd be any fun, to be quite honest with you, if anybody did do that. Also, I would encourage proper AIS prevention signage throughout the campground, and would encourage the developer to be supportive of the Lake Association funding so that we can have some inspections at the access. I would encourage the developer to work with Lake Emma Township and his contractor for the proper upkeep and repair of Holly Road during and upon completion of the development. There'll be some heavy traffic when you're moving heavier trucks in there, moving some of the dirt around with the heavy equipment. It's pretty common practice for you and the township to require that as part of your contract with the construction crew, that whatever damage is done to Holly Road during construction, that it gets put back to regular working order. And that's pretty much that. And of course, then if you work with the Lake Association, I would encourage Eric, as part of our AIS prevention, to try and schedule some hours on Pickerel Lake at public access.
There have been an hour.
I have a comment about the public access. I spoke to the DNR. I actually had 3 DNR people I had a Zoom meeting with. One was the regional director that was here. And so I asked her about the upgrade to the access. The upgrade to the access is being funded by funding called Get Out More. And it has nothing to do with the campground. Pickerel Lake access has been on the list for many, many years to be redone. If anyone was here when Dave talked to the DNR about not getting Long Lake done, they don't do things at the spur of the moment. And so this is purely coincidental.
And isn't it DNR forestry land right there also? I thought I saw that on the plot map.
Yeah, that strip that goes out into the lake is DNR forestry, but I don't think they could do much with that outside of maybe, make a little bit bigger turnaround space so that if there were 4 boats already occupying that spot, it would be hard to pull in there with a boat and a pontoon and get turned around if there's already 4 boats and trailers in there. They probably could go just, an extra 20 feet out into that peninsula or something, make that part of the thing. Then you might be able to actually turn around and leave if it's full without a hassle.
So the road leading into the access is maintained by the southern property owners of the lake. But there again, we don't have any jurisdiction over that road. So what would the board like to do? Any more questions you have for Mr. Celine or Eric? Steve, do you have anything else?
I do not.
Okay. So then, I need some sort of direction from the board.
Well, we need
Can
a
you,
motion.
can you talk into the mic?
You ready for a motion?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve this COP with these changes that we've discussed in the conditions. And I believe, if I'm correct, they were on number 2, down 8 slips. Adding a number 13 with no boat ramp. Is there anything else? And that's my motion?
It was number 3, not number 2, though.
Number 3, okay.
Yeah. Is there a second to the motion?
Before,
Go ahead.
just a recommendation, if Tom is looking to adopt the staff findings of fact, that would be
Oh,
a
yeah.
question. And if
Good
so,
point.
then we'll need to make some slight wording tweaks to the, excuse me, answer to the question 12, the last one that pertains to the Watercraft, since 16 slips are referenced in the planning commission's findings, and we'll have to adjust that.
To the 8. Do you want to include that in your motion?
Let me go see what 12 is. I was just at it. Yeah, I'll add to it.
Looking for a second?
I'm looking for a second.
I'll second.
Okay. Does anyone else have any discussion? I would just like to say I feel like I've done the best I can with what I can. When I went to the DNR and asked about what they were willing or had authority over to monitor, and then finding out that really they don't do much of anything, I felt like our hands were really tied. The decision we make has to be able to stand up legally. And so the conditions we put on here, I feel like we addressed as best we could.
I would just like to add too that the developer has met the requirements of the shoreline management ordinance. And want to be clear to everybody that myself, and I'm sure the other commissioners, have read through all the public comment. We've heard your comments. We've watched both planning commission meetings. We've read every email. And I think the planning commission did a very good job of vetting this. And of course, we spent a good amount of time vetting it here. So I believe they did a thorough job on that. In addition, the planning commission and the county board have developed several conditions on the CUP that help alleviate or limit some of the concerns that were presented. Weighing the right of the property owner with those of the public and the residents of the lake, along with the regulations in our shoreline ordinance and the conditions applied to the CUP, that is why I'm supportive of it.
I'm just curious, I've thought about this, I've made this comment to people I've talked with on the phone and stuff, that I've been a commissioner 5 years, and then 4 years prior to that, I was on the planning commission with Tom and a couple years with Shar. Is this the first RV campsite that we've approved in the last 9 years? I can't think of any.
There's one, what was that, Fifth Crowing or something like that? One on Fifth Crowing, I can remember.
Okay. And I was on the board, on planning commission?
I know I was. I don't remember if you were
Yeah,
there.
it was last year.
Last year even. They didn't need a conditional use permit?
They did. It was just it was a non-riparian property.
Oh, okay. Okay. I guess that, if I classified that, then this would be the first one on a lake.
Steve, I think Steve had something to say.
No, I was just agreeing with what Eric was saying.
Oh, okay.
That's all.
Okay.
Commissioners Van Kampen's comment too, a good portion of our economy, probably the majority of our economy, is based on tourism. And over the past 20 years, we've been losing resorts. They've been turning into PUDs or whatever it might be. So the public and visitors have lost some access that used to exist. That void is being filled by VRBOs or STRs and campgrounds. And if it's been a struggle to approve campgrounds in the county, but we have to protect our tourism too, because that's what drives the economy here. So if we constantly say no to every development, lake or not lake, at what point do we really hurt our economy and make our lives harder to function?
Okay, are we ready to vote? Okay. All those in favor of the the campground with the change in the conditions and also the findings of fact, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And then whenever you're ready, Eric, we can take up the second.
Sure. So the second item is that due to a unintentional oversight, the public notice didn't get in the newspaper in time for the planned ordinance hearing today, so we need to reschedule a new date, time for that hearing to take place.
Do you want the next meeting, Eric?
I believe that will allow the 10 days to be met, but I'll defer
If
to
the
Jeff.
public could take their comments outside, please. Thank you. Go ahead, Eric.
Today's the 16th. We have to provide at least 10 days and not more than 30 days notice. The next meeting is February 6th. I believe we can get a notice in, so we could, if we do it today, we can have it in for 9:30 a.m. on February 6th.
Okay, is that okay? Do we need a motion, or can we just do consensus?
We need a
Need a
motion
motion?
we need a
Okay.
motion to set a date for a public hearing.
Ted moves.
I'll second.
Okay, Steve seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. That's all that I had.
Thank you, Eric.
Eric.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, Jeff, we'll move to the administrator.
Sure, thank you. Madam Chair, we have a copy of a shared services agreement between Beltrami County and Hubbard County to provide highway engineer services. There's a couple of things that changed in this. The primary one is they added a date. Their engineer was concerned about not conflicting with the construction season, so this is short-term in nature. It would be effective today until April 30th or whenever it was canceled before that point in time. The cost is $12,000 a month, which is essentially a portion of about 10% of, not even 10% of the cost of that position. The other costs we would have for that would be mileage. And I don't expect that there's a significant cost above and beyond this. Statutorily, this is required. MnDOT needs us to have somebody who's authorized to sign with the PE on funding and project issues that the county has. We do have the position advertised. The next date of review is Friday, the 26th of January. And I would hope that we would have interviews scheduled that first week in February again after that, so. If we don't have a slate of candidates and if we can't find somebody out of that pool, my recommendation to you would be to go back and accept Gary Wire's proposal to do an expanded search, probably about a 5-stage search.
Yep.
So do we have a motion on the shared agreement with the changes?
So moved.
Okay. Ted and Dave, further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Before you do the administrator report, Jonathan, are you just here to listen, or do you have something? I don't want to keep you.
I was just watching I was just listening.
Okay, all right. Okay, so the administrator report?
Two items that I have. One is a little bit of housekeeping when we addressed the committee list on January 2nd. We got down to the standing committee list, the standing county committee lists. I had a page that had yellow highlighting, and it was the wrong page with the wrong yellow highlighting. We have a general government meeting, a personnel committee, and public safety and transportation. The general government identifies the county board chair. And personnel committee names 2 persons. We don't have a spot for Commissioner Kruger on here at this point in time.
Well, I
Except
was.
I was gonna go off personnel then,
Okay.
and Tom was gonna take.
We made that switch when I became chair.
Yep.
So, yeah, so I'm back on it then?
So you go, Ted and Tom on personnel, Char and Dave on general government, Steve and Dave on public safety? Is that the one switch?
But, yeah, but we did talk about including Steve in general government because if we keep up with the rotation, he'd be board chair next year and he's new. So do we want him on general government for learning? I'm
Probably
open
not a
to
half bad
anything.
idea. Yeah.
That would be you giving up general government, staying on public safety for the year. Ted and Tom on personnel. Steve, you'd have two. I'm guessing from a scheduling standpoint, the general government, which would typically be meeting at 11 o'clock on the third Tuesday of the month, is an easier time for you to schedule than the Friday morning.
Well, Friday morning is easier for me, but
Okay.
Well,
I
we
guess I'm flexible either way. If it's Tuesday after our regular board meeting, I can certainly do that. So I'm open to whatever works the best to facilitate getting everything done.
I've never been on general government before either, so if Steve is board chair next year and goes on new, you leave Dave on, I'm fine with that too.
Whatever Steve wants. Or
Steve, which of the standing committees? Are you fine with public safety and transportation? Or do you want to be on general government or both?
I can do both.
Does that work for you? Ted and Tom on personnel. We have the labor negotiating committee that's standing there, but we don't have labor negotiations until next year. So that will probably mimic whatever that doesn't even have to mimic what the personnel committee is. So it just doesn't mean anything in this year. But I just wanted to clean that up. Because I was reading through that and making those notes and I'm like, that's not good. We need Commissioner Kruger to be assigned somewhere. Okay. The only other item that I have is Commissioner Christensen asked that I bring forward a resolution that was offered to MRC last week, a resolution that was approved by Crow Wing County. I think you all got a copy of that in an email last week related to the redesign of the state flag. And I just kind of throw that out there for your conversation.
There was a member of the public that planned to be here and then emailed me this morning and couldn't come. That person was gonna ask us to take this up as a matter of business. So at the MRC meeting, the motion failed from 12 to 11 for MRC to submit on behalf of all the counties for two reasons. And one was, some of the commissioners that were there felt that each county should weigh in separately because then each commissioner gets to decide within that county. And the second concern was that it might deter further negotiations if MRC submitted it as a group versus individual counties. So I went through today, this morning before I came, the flag that they're deciding to change. This is what it states about our history. In 1858, the first governor, Governor Henry Sibley, decided that the wording should be in French for Star of the North because at that time Minnesota was the northernmost state, and also that French fur trade was a big business, so he felt that this honored the connection between the two. The 19 stars that ring the wreath stand for Minnesota's the 19th state to enter the Union after the original 13. The largest star is the Star of the North, which stands for Minnesota. The green stands for forest, the white for winter, the blue for water. The year 1858 was the year that we became state. The plowing shows the history of farming for Minnesota. The riding of the Native American on the horse shows that part of our history. The sunset on the western horizon along with the water and the trees portrays parts of Minnesota. The lady slipper is the state flower and that is on the flag. The year 1819 is on the flag. That's the year Fort Snelling was founded. And the year 1893 is on the flag and that was the year the first state flag was designed. The trouble I have with the proposed new flag moving forward is that Governor Walz just handpicked a group of people. He didn't go through any legislative process, and he did not go through the public to see if they even addressed this change. I would ask the board, the new proposed flag, what does that state about our history? And then, who's gonna bear the cost of changing all the things that we have to change for seals? Anything else that has to do with our county, who's gonna pay for that? And so in this resolution, those things are addressed. One of the non-voting members that was on the flag committee, Representative Bjorn Olson, who is from the area where Faribault, Minnesota is, has asked that any county that passes this would send him a copy of the signed resolution, because he is wanting to bring this forward to the legislature and have the legislature vote on the process. So I'm gonna make a motion that we move forward with a resolution to Governor Walz.
Yeah, I think this change in flags is nothing but an effort to wipe out our history, as they're so busy trying to do. So I am in favor of that resolution.
Okay, is that a second?
Okay, I'll second.
Okay,
And my feeling is, kind of where you touched on, now every county and every city has to get a new flag, so there's added costs. You know, if it was something where when your flag wears out or something, you can get one of the new ones or something to that effect. There's a lot of history in that on our flag, and on the flip side, the Hubbard County logo that we currently have, we haven't had forever. We made a change at some point. So I'm not opposed to change. I think part of it has to do with the process that they went through. I don't really have an opinion on what they're proposing to have as a state flag. I think it's kind of simple. And compared to a detailed flag that we have, yeah, you know, we simplified the logo there for different reasons in publications and stuff like that. If we went down to 3 colors, if we went to black and white, you know, all those kinds of things were considered. So I could be in support of the resolution.
I would ask one question, because we didn't get this until after the agenda was published. Do we really want to take action on the resolution today, or do we want to take action to put this on an agenda so that it's available? I believe that the board had taken action just before I got here to not take action on things that came up in this conversation, to make sure that everything get on the agenda. And I emailed this to you about an hour after I got it this past week. So I just bring that
I
up for.
can withdraw my motion, and we can put it on the next board meeting agenda. I'm fine with that. Yep, with the draft.
With the draft of our,
Yep.
of our resolution, not a copy of Crow Wing County's resolution.
Yep,
Just
I'm
add-
fine with that.
Add it to.
When do they need it for the legislative session?
I don't have a date, so if we do it the first week in February, that would be, I think that would be okay.
It's before it's 2 weeks before the legislative
Yeah, it
conference, so
begins.
it's during session.
Okay.
Yeah.
There shouldn't be a deadline there.
So are you fine with withdrawing your second? Okay. Steve, are you okay with that?
Yes.
Okay, let's do that then.
My only comment on it is, I'm more concerned with the amount of dollars that are being spent for everybody to upgrade all their stuff across the state of Minnesota. It just seems like kind of unnecessary.
It
That's
kind of
what-
reminds me when, excuse me, when we didn't have a street named after Martin Luther King. And they picked the street that goes in front of the Capitol. So all the Capitol envelopes and stationery and on and on and all had to be changed. And like I said, this seems like another place that money is being spent that maybe really doesn't need to be spent.
Okay, so we're on to committee reports?
We have to vote yet.
No, I
Oh, no,
withdrew.
we moved it, yeah.
Yeah.
Withdrew ask to place it on the February 6th agenda.
Okay. So who's got committee reports that they want?
I'll start.
Go ahead, Ted.
I only had one, the Mississippi River Headwaters One Watershed, One Plan. We have a couple of items that will have to be, we updated the 2022-2023 work plan and budget. That is something that those projects go into 2024, which of course is this year. The one change, the major change was the Beltrami Soil and Water Conservation District will receive Enbridge dollars from an outside grant source for stormwater projects, the Mississippi River Restoration Project, and a stream crossing project currently in the 2022-2023 work plan. So we are proposing to remove the One Watershed, One Plan implementation funds for those projects and add 3 other stormwater projects, one in Beltrami County, one in Cass County, and one in Itasca County. And doing so, we would need to reallocate $55,000 from the water course to urban site, or excuse me, urban issues. And that's one thing, we've got it in our bylaws there for the One Watershed plans. If it reaches a $50,000 threshold, we have to send it back to the counties to be approved. This is something I didn't know. I've got the plans and I can forward them to Jeff to be sent to the board members in our next board pack if we want to do it as early as our first meeting in February. And that is my question is, will we be comfortable with that, or do we want the Soil and Water Conservation District to come before us and make a presentation as to the changes in the 2022-2023 work plan, and then approve the 2024-2025 work plan?
Tom, aren't you the representative for the soil and water?
And they just approved it last Wednesday night.
Do you feel there's a need to come before the board?
Well, it's always nice, when they come during the summer sometime anyway, they give their report. And you got that booklet that I handed out. I think those are sufficient.
That's right, and, you know, they're pretty detailed and everything. And that's what I kind of thought, do we just put it on the consent agenda, or do we want them to come and present? And I would be comfortable with the consent agenda.
Okay.
And then if you guys did have any, after you got the materials, and if you had questions, we could always pull it. I'm sure Crystal or Clara would maybe be available by phone call or something if we had a question that they needed to answer. And then the second thing that I've just received today, which I'm thinking maybe the other board members did too, Goodhue County, once again, is doing their Mighty Mississippi Cleanup Challenge. It's from, is it April? I'm trying to see the dates here. Yep, April 15th to May 15th. This is something that we discussed last year at the Mississippi Headwaters Board. They couldn't have picked a worse time for us, in a sense, because that's the high water mark usually in the year for the Mississippi River. And in Hubbard County, we have a few miles that runs through the county. It's all tax forfeited land. There's one private parcel that's on the river. Otherwise, it's pretty much tax forfeited land. So I don't know if we were to go out and clean up the river, how we would access it, and if there's really that much of a need. But I just wanted to say that there is a challenge out there. We didn't participate last year. And I would, like I say, I would be curious. I don't know who I would contact to talk about, is there a way we could access it to try to clean it up? But I think about the Coffee Pot Landing as the only one I can think of, and I've been there, and as rocky as the river is and as poor as the shoreline is, I can't see anybody walking it, trying to make an effort to clean it up. But I wanted to just bring that to the board's attention today. And I believe that's all I've got.
Thank you, Ted. Tom?
Well, I had had two meetings. One was SWCD and the other one was the local advisory committee. With SWCD, they had a few accounting errors from the contractor that they were working with, so they're working those things out. The other thing that came up was, you're gonna be able to do the Crowing Water One Plan meeting because they're not gonna have the Zoom option, so I won't be able to do that.
Okay. Yeah, and that was actually on my questions I was gonna ask today was, David's your alternate, so was Dave available?
Which meeting?
Crowing, One Watershed, One Plan?
Crowing one?
Yeah.
Which one, the Crowing?
Yes.
It's on the
What day?
24th.
Yep. And it's in Staples.
Time do they meet to?
9:30.
Yep.
In the morning?
Yep.
Say January 19th, please.
No, 24th.
24th?
Yeah.
Boy, too bad you didn't say the 25th. That would work really good.
And since I had offered, I now have a North Country Community Health Board meeting.
Okay.
That,
Probably can do that since I'm the alternate. Right there, where do they meet at?
Staples, Sourcewell, Sourcewell, yep.
Okay, yep. Got it.
You can bring your wife with you that day.
9:30 a.m. the 24th. Got it.
If they allowed the Zoom option, I could have done it because that's a C day for me and I would have been able to sit down and spend some time at it, but they don't have it available.
All right. Perfect. Got it.
And then with the LAC, I think maybe the only thing that came up is a lot of times they have issues with the transportation, and one of them was that during the hours of 12 to 1, they would close for lunch, but when someone calls to reserve to schedule a bus to come pick them up, there's no recording or anything to let them know about it. So I think Christina Hill is going to talk with them about it and see if they can correct that. So at least when they call, they know that, well, we just gotta wait a little bit or call ahead of time. But that it was just the phone ringing and no messaging or anything like that. So that was the issue that they had with transportation. That's about all I have.
Okay, at a Prime West meeting, and Jim and some of his staff have been in for a while, conversation with Health and Human Services in Minnesota, and they're forming a group supposedly called Karma, and that would recognize county government, or county, it would recognize what Prime West is, instead of being in competition and the state trying to close them down. So that's still in the works. MRC, I attended in Alexandria. The main topic there was ditching and great frustration because the environmental group walked away when they were supposed to come together as a committee and submit things to the legislative session. So they will be submitting that they couldn't come to agreement. And I found out the ditching laws have not been changed in the Minnesota since they were first incorporated in the 1940s. Family Safety Network is in the process of hiring 2 people for the Park Rapids office. And that's all I have for reports.
I had Northwest Emergency Radio Board, and nothing alarming there, just trying to figure out how to fund infrastructure improvements throughout every district for that matter, and kind of right now every district has been doing things a little differently. So ECN, the state group, is trying to look for a recommendation where there would be a regional plan put together and come up with common things that every region would need, so that we can come up with maybe a more reasonable funding model. And then we had a presentation on Next Gen 911, which is kind of the newest thing that's being developed and will constitute changes in infrastructure in order to make some of that work. But Hubbard County is pretty well set right now. Most of our GIS work is done or being done. I don't know if we have the latest council or not for dispatch, but I'm sure a lot of that will get upgraded at the same time. If we make changes over there and end up moving dispatch, we'll probably build all that in to make sure we've got all the newest stuff we need to be compliant moving forward. So that's all I have.
Okay, the only other thing I had is Sarah from HRA had reached out to me, or HRDC rather, about the financials for HRA. I gave her a list. I copied Jeff. Oh, I'm sorry, Steve, we forgot you.
That's fine, because I don't have anything anyway,
Oh.
so
Well,
I've been absent.
Jeff remembered you. So just informing the board that Jeff did not receive any financials that we had requested from the HRA or HRDC.
Oh. All right, and the agenda, today's agenda, they have it in the meeting today. I thought there was, Sarah had commented that she'd sent that stuff out, so I can.
I let her know last Thursday was the deadline and Jeff didn't receive anything, so.
I can forward you what I have.
Well, I think Sarah should be, she should be submitting the report to Jeff so can get in the agenda packet, and then the public and the board all has access to it.
Okay.
Then I was given this for notice, so to counties and municipalities, Minnesota Power has a rate increase for anywhere from $11 for residential use. General use is a 43, this is per month. $43 increase. Commercial and industrial dual fuel is $45 per month. And then it goes on to light power. I don't think that pertains to any of us here. This is strictly informational because we don't vote on this, the Minnesota Public Commissions does.
Well, I add to that I don't know if it was an article I read or the letter itself, but it's the green energy and renewable energy requirements that are driving a lot of the increase.
Yes. And Sherburne County, the coal plant was just shut down there. And then there's a note, or there's a letter from Minnesota City County Management Association, and if we want to submit to nominate your manager or administrator for Minnesota City County Management Association Award of Excellence, we can do that. So, passing that on for information. Is there anything else besides the webinar tomorrow?
Managers meeting.
Oh, yeah.
My turn.
Okay, okay.
That'd be on the 30th.
Yep.
Yep, 2 weeks.
And then Jeff told me that he is planning to attend the legislative conference, so if none of us go down, he will represent us at MRC on the 20th. Okay, I think that's it. Is there anything else, Jeff?
The email I got from Sarah on the HRA stuff was dated last Tuesday, and you're on the email list.
I'll take a look.
Okay.
But it wasn't the financials that were requested by the board a month ago. It was a summary of the financials.
Oh, yeah, and I gave her specific. I was very specific. I want one page on this, this, and this, because I copied Jeff on the email.
Okay. And I know that they had like the cash flow stuff for the buildings and stuff like that on there.
Over the next 6 months, are they gonna give us regular reports on it?
That was my understanding, yeah.
Okay, good.
Okay, motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Dave moves, second? I'll second. further discussion, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you, Steve.
Yes.
Do we have a general government meeting today?
We don't,
Okay.
but